Hi, this is Gina Ann Costigan, and I'm here today to do my 50 and Fabulous What We've Learned Through the Trenches, sponsored by Main Street Mortgage. And today I am so excited. I have not only one of my dear friends, I also have a team member from our group that we have, the Boss Ladies, that we're in together. And that's, I think, where we met initially.
We did, yeah.
And it's just been a wonderful friendship and working environment. And we've just kind of grown in the last couple of years and got to know each other really well. So it's been really fun. Glenda, you have quite the resume here.
I'm old.
You're not that much older than me. When I read it, I'm like, well, wow, she's got a lot of things going on.
She's done a lot of things.
And actually, she's speaking for me in another one of my groups this week. So when I hear her speak and I hear everything that she does, it's always powerful and compelling. And that's why I wanted to have her today on the show.
I am so excited.
Me too. So we're going to dive right in and kind of go through some of the things that are here. And then I'm going to have you elaborate more and more on just things that are important in your business, where you're at today, where you want to excel, and kind of where you see yourself maybe in 10 years from now. I'm going to throw that one in there.
Hopefully still alive. That's my goal.
Above ground.
Above ground, yes.
That's always a good thing. So, I mean, we know you spent some time in corporate America. It says you had 2 decades in corporate America. You're a master certified coach. You're money mentor coach, therapeutic art productivity coach, and human design reader.
That's a lot, huh?
That was a lot.
No wonder I'm so tired.
Now, yeah. So, I mean, I know that you have your own company, the Badassery Glenda Donading Coaching Show, or actually, it's your business, I should say. So, how do you put these accolades into your day-to-day work in your business?
Yeah, such a great question. So I'm going to rewind tape just a little bit to get us a picture of how I got here, because it
took a while.
It doesn't make sense when you look at it, right?
It took a while to get here. I remember.
It took a while to get here. Oh boy, it took a while to get here. So yes, I have, and we're just going to call it 2 decades because it's more, and we don't want to talk about how old I actually am. So 2 decades in corporate America. A lot of that doing coaching in some form or another, right? And even though I would go into a role working in these Fortune 50 or 100 companies into a role that was not coaching, somehow I ended up doing that, right? And
you became that person.
I became that person. And after a while, you have to kind of listen to the universe, I guess, right? Like I would push back and be like, that's not what you hired me for. I'm supposed to be doing this, whatever. And it was just an interesting journey. But the difference about coaching in corporate America is there's an agenda, right? The corporation has a goal. They want you to get the employees to do whatever, right? And while the skill set is the same and a lot of the tools are the same, the motivation is different, right?
Yeah.
And so, fast forward, the company that I worked for was a huge company. No longer exists. And before that, there was a kind of a directive of either we were going to be moved out of the state, Texas or Arizona, which now doesn't seem so bad, but 15 to 20 years ago, it didn't sound like such a great idea. You were going to get moved out of the state, or, you needed to find some other place to be. It was expensive to do business in California, right?
Right.
This is before we knew that they were going under. So I was like, that's not going to be a thing. Like, I can't move to Texas or Arizona. I'm a California girl.
Yeah.
Now it looks a little different, right? We look at things differently. So started looking for something else to do. Ended up opening up some brick and mortars.
I remember that.
Yes.
Okay.
And the goal at that point for me was to make sure that that what we were opening was something that couldn't get moved out of the state.
They were spas, correct?
They were spas. Yes,
okay.
Correct. Yeah. So really working on the body relaxation of people, right? And so we wanted to make sure that we were creating jobs here and not somewhere else, right?
Right.
So that was great. That was fantastic. But what I found through that journey was that while people were coming in to fix their physical body, what was really happening was what was happening in their mind.
Right. Because if I go in my back, they always say, "What do you do?"
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't have time. Just fix me.
What blocks of cement have you been carrying, right?
Right.
Yeah.
What do you do on a daily basis? Because you have knots in your neck. I'm like, I'll just fix them.
Just make me better.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so those physical, like the massage is great, right? That's all fantastic. But if we can't fix what's happening here, this just keeps coming back, right? Your body,
Very true.
the muscles have memory. So what I was discovering is that people were coming in to get their massages done, but we'd have these long conversations about what was going on in their mind, right? Like what was really bothering them.
My masseuse is my good friend.
Is your,
Friend.
yeah,
We
like you
chat.
just chat, right? And so it was another message of like, you're coaching people on what's going on in their brain, right? And it felt more in alignment. Okay, so I started my coaching business while we had our brick and mortars.
Good thing because 2020 is coming around.
Holy moly. Yeah, so our directive at that time, well, for a long time, we couldn't do anything, right? Or you can do massages out in the parking lot. No, I'm going to go with no on that.
Yeah,
That doesn't sound very
Who's going to pay to be in the parking lot
it doesn't sound very
that's
relaxing.
awful.
Right. So we've since sold those businesses and have moved on. And so how did I get to all of these pieces?
Yeah,
I mean, ever since I was a little kid, I have been interested in how does the brain work, right? And I would go on vacation with my kids or my, family, and I'd be reading books on self-development, and they'd be like, "Why are you not reading a romance or a mystery book?"
You were
or
trying
anything,
to,
right? And it was just so fascinating to me. It's like just such an amazing thing. Well, what I learned through the journey was when I was working in corporate America, I was always pushing myself. Family history, we'll talk about that on another day, but to
the core.
get better, do better, be more, get to the next level, get in the corner
I
office.
was that person.
Yes, of course, many of us are, right? These messages from the outside world telling me how I should be living my life, what I should be doing, where I should be going. And it really took, in all honesty, the pandemic was the blessing. I mean, I started coaching before that, but for me to be like, what are you doing, Glenda? You're being the hero of somebody else's story. That's not okay.
It's
right?
very true.
It's just,
I look back too on a lot of things. And, when I was working corporate America too, I was a manager. I had a 4 or 5-year-old. I had my year-old on my hip, dropping them both off at daycare and school before I'd be in my office by 8 a.m. because I was managing. I wouldn't leave till 7. Their dad would pick them up like 5:30, and I'd get home about 7:30. And I did that for years, and I finally did.
yeah, you
What
great.
am I doing?
What are you doing?
I don't see. I take them to work on Saturday. My daughters, I get nothing done because they're messing up everything in my office.
Right.
But that's when I said, "What am I doing?"
What am I doing? What am I doing? Yeah. And, for many people, they'll ask the question and do nothing about it.
Right.
Right. I think I told you before that, I met my husband because we were the last 2 cars in the parking lot.
That's how you met him. I mean,
Right. I mean, that's kind of the good thing. But I was the last 2 cars in the parking lot. I mean,
every night.
Every night. What is that? That's just not okay, right? And if that's your jam, do it. But it's not for so many people. They think they have to, right? They think they have to hustle and push, and it's just not worth it sometimes, right? To not live your own life, your own journey. So I went on this mission of, the way that I am wired is you've got to learn all the things, Glenda.
Which is great.
Which is great,
You did
right?
your homework.
I did my homework, right? And so, but I'm now listening. There are things that feel useful and in alignment for me, and I test them and I try them and I see if they make movement, and if they don't, I push them aside and I go on to something else. So there's a lot of eclectic things that I've learned, but they're things that I have found have worked and make sense for me, a high achiever, a people pleaser, recovering addict people pleaser, and I'm working on it, right? And so
That's hard, though.
It's hard. And there's so many of us out there that need direction. We need somebody.
It's
And you and I have talked about this before, is that we think we can go to our friends, we think we can go to our family, we think we can go to people who really care about us and expect them to be neutral in the information that they give us. And they can't. It's not fair. It's not their job.
Right.
Right? Which is why finding a great coach is so important. That's what you learn. There's a zillion tools, right? There's a zillion tools. But what you learn is being able to hold that space for somebody completely neutrally so that they can show up without worrying about judgment or without worrying about somebody telling them they should be doing something a certain
What
way.
they did last night, what they're doing, nothing. Just
None
be
of
there.
that matters. Just being being able to ask the question so that they can figure out how to be the hero of their story. Right?
Well, I think what I found by talking to coaches and, excuse me, meeting a few coaches during some of my podcasts and some of the groups that I'm in, it's about moving forward, not looking back. And that's what I like.
Yes.
Moving forward. I've been back. I'm not really interested in
Don't
going there.
revisit that. Yeah.
I already did all that.
Yeah.
That work about moving forward and how I can live, the next 20 years, not killing myself daily, or it's even gotten lighter because I'm getting a little bit older and I know what I can do. But it's just, you still have that grind in your mind sometimes, and you got to remember, I can't do it that way anymore.
Yeah. Or I don't want to.
I just don't
Right?
want to.
I don't want to. There's only so much life to live, right? And I only have so much time, which is really why I named my program what I did, Bridge to Badassery.
I love it.
Because
I love it.
for me, badassery doesn't mean being like strong and being like, whatever.
macho
It
man.
means knowing who you are, living your life, being your own hero, and being able to close out all the outside noise from everyone, right? And so you know what's right for you. Maybe you don't know how to get there. That's okay, right? That's what we're all, there's people to help with that. But being honest about what's right for you.
Right.
And realizing that, the people that love you the most, unfortunately, they're looking through their filter, which may not be right for you.
And I say that too, because in some of the podcasts that I've talked about, when I got divorced in that area, which was Haley's 30, so probably I'd say, 15 years ago or 20, I can't even remember anymore. But what I know today versus what I knew then, and how much I didn't listen to anybody. And I have smart people in my corner, my family. I have a really smart dad. I mean, he was trying to tell me, everyone was trying to give me advice, and I was like, nope. I rented for 3 years. I did everything that now I know I could have 4 condos versus 1 condo. But at the time, I didn't want to change my lifestyle. That was the problem. I wanted to go from that big house to just downsize it just a little for my daughters. Sure. I didn't want them to feel the impact. And I look back, and that was my way of protecting them. Could I kick myself sometimes financially? Of course. But you know what? As a mom, I made my decision. So, but it took time to get through that.
It does, right?
It was a decision I made, and of course now I'm thinking, oh yeah, I could have had a whole ranch, but and now they're off and going.
That sounds tiring to me.
I know.
Yeah,
I'm just kidding, but I mean that was the decision I made, and I just toned out everyone in my corners. I didn't listen to anybody that gave me advice, which I could have and I should have, but that's just what I did.
But that's so rare, honestly. I mean, there's people who don't listen because they're just being defiant, right?
No, I'm not defiant. Just
But there's people who don't listen. Very few people who don't listen because they know what is right for them from their own voice, not from the voices that they hear that they're adopting as their own voice, right? So it's very rare because it's hard to recognize your I'm going to call them thought errors, right? About your belief system and the things that maybe aren't good for you. It's hard to recognize those thought errors with the same thinking and fix it, right? With the same thinking that got you there. Like you really need somebody to intervene to be able to say, do you realize that this is what your brain is doing? Like,
Right.
This is what you're thinking. Is that something you want to keep? Most of us don't even recognize that we have it, right?
No,
It's
and I
just-
would have to say it's something that's kind of, you feel like it's a, a constant thing that's moving. But so after you had the, your massage company, or you bought some franchises. So you sell those. It's 2020. We're going into COVID. And this is when we're making this change, this pivotal change.
Yeah, full time, right? So I was doing it while we had our massage locations because it was just natural, right? Like people were coming to me like, this is ridiculous. Why are you not?
I'm a therapist, and
Why am I not doing something with this, right? Yeah. And so it is really, but let me tell you, Gina, even for somebody who is, you know, spent a fortune on learning, because I love learning.
You do love learning.
I want to know all the things, right? It was hard. It was a hard, everything in me said, Glenda, this is so what you're put on this planet to do. But the other voices of like, what are people going to think? Oh my God, you used to have a corner office. You used to have a parking space. You used to be making this, you know, great salary with this great title and had all these people working for you. And then you went and you opened up, you know, brick and mortar places. And even that transition, I was like, what are people going to think about that? They're going to think I should be doing something else. And then to go from having that where I had locations and buildings and people to pretty much it's just me, you know, like, what are people going to think?
Who cares, right?
Now I can say that. Most of the time I can say that.
I can say it now too, but I couldn't say it for a long time. I don't care.
But all that chatter, right? All that chatter, that's the work. That's the work of helping people clear out the chatter.
Yep.
And dealing with the what comes up for you when you think about making that change or making that move or doing something different or, you know, working on your relationship or not working on your relationship or changing jobs or opening a business or closing a business or, you know, whatever, moving, like all of those things, right?
It's all tough.
It's all tough. What comes up for you and what is preventing you from being your own hero, right? And that is not something you can do yourself because, again, that thinking that got you there is not going to get you out of there.
Right. It's a tough transition. I mean, I have to admit myself, you know.
Yeah.
I get set in my ways and it's tough. You're systematic, I feel like sometimes, you know, you get up, you get ready, you go to work, you go to the gym, and you go home. Then I'm like, okay, I'm going to do that again tomorrow.
Yes.
You get rid of but you're happy you got up. But sometimes you just get so systematic.
For sure.
I'm lucky I believe in vacation, so I do get some of those in. But, you know, it's
Me
hard.
too.
Yeah, I know you do. But that's treating ourselves. And even if it's a weekend away to San Luis Obispo to go meet friends or going far away, it doesn't matter. You need that time off from your business and you need that time away. And it took me a long time to where I'm even like, hey, you know what? I'm not available this weekend. Or when I went to Hawaii a couple years ago, I'm not available this week.
Yeah.
Call me if anything blows up. But other than that, I'm unavailable.
Yeah.
And everyone got the hint because I needed to check out.
But you learned that and it's brilliant,
I
right?
learned it, but I couldn't have said that, 10 years ago, 20 years ago, no way would I would be on the phone the whole time when I was on vacation. My ex-husband, he would get so mad at me. And that's when I had to go back to the cabins because the cell phones were like that big and I'm on the phone with my office. That makes me mad at myself right now. But yeah, you learn though. You slowly learn. And then that's why I think with the coaching that I've learned and really have studied through, you know, some of my podcasts and I've heard you speak so many times and always so amazed by everything that you do. And that's why I've asked you to speak again for me. It's just because I love you too. You have such a great energy and you know where you came from, you know where you got it, and then you know where you're at now. And that's, you've really, over so many years, you know, built yourself another business.
Yeah.
And you enjoy it.
It's a beautiful thing, but it wasn't without a lot of brain work, right? It was without a lot of my own coaching work that needed to
making
happen,
those
right?
transitions yourself.
And this is how I know that it works, right? And, you know, it's like we're not brought here with this manual of like, okay, here's all the things you should do and here's how you're supposed to get there.
Yeah.
You know, emotional intelligence is not something that's taught in school.
No.
Right? How do we deal with those emotions? There are things, it's going to seem like strange, but there are things that are better than being happy all the time, right? To be able to feel the appropriate emotions that are yours, right? Not somebody else's. When they're, you know, that's how we get through it all, right? We can't pretend to be happy all the time. It just doesn't.
Because that's just more exhausting.
It's exhausting. Yeah.
You know, I always tell the girls too, you know, my daughters now are 26 and 28. So everybody that knows me, 26 and 30.
30.
Oh boy.
Wow.
Haley, sorry about that.
Sleeping for 2 years.
Yeah, so sleep for a little bit. But anybody, what I used to tell them, there is no book I got on how to raise you two. There are books, but it doesn't say Haley and Christina on it. Being a parent, there's not a manual.
No.
And that's what I always would tell them. They would be like, I know what you're going to say, being a parent, not a manual. But there is no manuals, and you do the best you can, and, you hope for the best. And I'm pretty proud, but it was a lot of work involved. And but now it's a little bit more to my time, and it's kind of like, oh, I can work on myself a little bit again.
Which is beautiful.
Yeah,
right?
which I'm finding myself and I a little bored, okay. But I have my beautiful roommate, so it's another life adjustment.
So part of my goal through all of this, Gina, and you and I have talked about is, to let people know that they don't have to do it alone, right? There's no prize at the end. There's no, gold star for getting through this journey alone, right? Many of us think we need to. Many of us think we should already know how.
No.
Right? And it's just not realistic. Right? It's like I wouldn't ask you to start speaking to me in Chinese. Right? Again, going back to that emotional intelligence and how to handle and how to listen to your own voice and how to be your own hero. It's just not something that's automatic.
No.
You have to learn it, right?
Yeah.
And there's no shame in that. In the olden days, right? We'll go back a few years. Having a therapist, let's say,
it was like
voodoo, right? Like
crazy people.
Yes, crazy people have therapists, right? And so, now everybody has a therapist. It's
if you don't have therapy, there might be something wrong.
There might be something wrong with you. And now coaching is kind of taking that space. But to
Coaching
your point,
I feel it is as well.
therapy is really looking back and let's talk about, and it's so useful for so many people. But if you are functioning and you're ready to move forward and you want a better, different, more rich life, a coach could be a perfect solution, right? A perfect solution. So, again, with my title of my program, The Bridge to Badassery, like we could go down what are those things called? The
rabbit hole?
Mountain, I don't know.
Mountains, okay. We're good.
You go all the way down, come back up the side, right? And it could take you a long time.
Right.
Some of us have already done that.
Yeah.
Right. And so finding a good coach, for me, we're building that bridge to get you to where you got to go faster because our most valuable asset, time. We don't want to be wasting a lot of time. If we can get you to your next level faster, it's worth every minute and every bit of investment.
Oh, I think the same way. And I mean, just listening to you today again, and I get to hear you tomorrow again.
So much Glenda this week.
But it's so much to learn always. And, you always bring such a different idea or fresh ideas. And that's why I was so excited today to have you on the podcast. And I think that just with this coming out and, being put up amongst all of our, peers and people that we work with or, any of our clients, it's something that someone could use possibly. And they find it they find it valuable. So that's why being 50 and fabulous and what we learn through the trenches.
We do.
We learn everything through those trenches. And that's a wrap because we are both 50 and fabulous. Thanks, Glenda.
My pleasure.